Hi, I'm Tammy Greenberg, Senior Vice President, Business Development at RAB, and welcome to the Radio on Main Street podcast. The 2025 ANA Masters of Marketing Conference in Orlando, Florida was a week filled with learning, growing, better understanding the influence that AI, data, and human creativity bring to the marketing results, and the opportunity to share the power of radio with more than 3,000 brand marketers. Andrew Tindall is no stranger to the power that brilliant creative can bring to the bottom line for brands. As Global Director of Partnerships for System1, steering global research on emotion, attention, and creative impact, Andrew brings a data-driven and brutally honest perspective on where audio fits in the future of media. In this episode, Mike Holvey, RAB's president and CEO, chats with Andrew to dig into why audio is regaining power in a screen-saturated world and how sound builds memory and emotion in ways that visuals simply cannot.
It is Radio on Main Street at the ANA. Hi, I'm Mike Holvey. Andrew, I've been hearing you're going to show up in one of our podcasts. I've also heard that it was 2 years ago you and your boss sat down with Tammy Greenberg and dazzled the U.S. audience about your brilliance as it related to your knowledge of how our industry works and works so well.
Yeah.
System1, so there's the setup. You like radio, you like audio, and you know how it works.
Agreed. I'm a big fan. I recently wrote a column actually, which was digging into not just, zooming out into the whole audio context of marketing, actually looking at how audio is becoming more important in modern marketing for a few reasons, actually. So there's this great research that a TV owner in the UK stupidly released. I don't know why they want to get this out there, but looking at actually how these days a lot of TV ads don't actually get visual attention. They're just heard. And you actually see, more and more you just sat on your couch with your phone and your laptop and whatever. And just more and more TV ads are simply heard, not seen. And actually get the more audio recall from TV advertising versus visual advertising, which starts to touch on, not only is audio getting more important in general beyond just radio, but the power of audio and how it can actually build memories better than visual storytelling, which is really important. And secondly, I think audio is becoming more important because social now as well is sound on. TikTok changed the game back to sound on. I saw someone talking here about we needed to come up with an idea that was good for sound off because it was going to go in social. They need to wake up and join us in 2025. Digital is now sound on. So you're actually seeing all my research and stuff with TikTok and people like this. So you actually see that visual branding in social causes skipping, whereas audio assets don't. So again, audio does something to our brains that visual marketing doesn't. It's an advantage. And thirdly, I think audio is becoming more important because clearly the power of broad reach radio, which I wrote a book, some publication with Radio Centre in the UK about 3 years on this called Listen Up, looking at how audio is really good at doing behaviour change and really good at building trust. It's often 5 times cheaper than TV, but it has similar reach to linear TV. And you can storytelling radio. You don't have to hire a helicopter, you can just play the helicopter sound. It's affordable, it's emotional, it's trust building. So, you're starting to see it almost these days. I think audio is becoming more and more important, and I don't think America knows that. I spend a lot of time in Dublin. I love Dublin, mainly because I drink Guinness too much. And I think now in Ireland, 20% of their media spend goes on radio still. Irish marketers know what's up. In the US, I think might be 20 times smaller than that, national radio. Yeah. You hear people as well, getting very excited about digital radio and connected radio and streaming and podcasting and stuff. Well, I think that's only 5-10% max of the share of ad-supported radio audio reach in America, whereas radio is still something like over half of that. So, yeah, radio needs a new US PR agency. Maybe you're that man. It needs a new PR manager.
So, Andrew, as you were talking, the three primary points that you just made are not new.
No.
I mean, they've been in existence, and that's one of the things that RAB, we've been trying to articulate for sure. And I think that's one of the interesting things is that those 3 points have been in place for some time. It's one of, I would say, our core strengths.
Yeah.
And here on the Radio on Main Street podcast, behind the audio leader, which is what broadcast radio is in so many ways, and how we engage, it all reinforces those 3 key points that you have.
Yeah.
So why don't marketers understand that and embrace that?
You're not going to like my answer because it might offend a few people, but the art of proper media planning and strategy isn't as popular here as in other markets. So like when you look at how radio works, it's very habitual, and the need states are very different to other kinds of media channels. There's different need states of radio, companionship, having something else to listen to whilst you're doing something else like cooking or working out, etc. No other media channel can do that. So when you put that information into the hands of proper media planning, often the conclusion is we should have some radio in this mix to do something a little bit different than just interrupting people's lives. And I don't think that media planning is as popular in the media strategy and planning is as popular in the US. Again, this will probably upset some very good US-based media planners, but as a general fact, versus other markets. And that's because of your size. Media deals are won here by shaving off a few percent in the price. Because you guys spend so much money on advertising. So actually, if you save a few percent on your media buy, arguably that's enough for me this year. So whereas in the UK, I feel like a lot, and Europe, I feel like a lot of media agencies win by, I'm going to bring you proper media strategy, because it's really hard to compete on price. So they lean into the more media planning will lead to growth and effectiveness, not going to save you cash. It's a very long-winded answer, but I think that might be the underlying thing. And, you guys are losing out to some very good marketing done by digital that has framed you as dusty and old and not sexy. Unlike Mark Zuckerberg, who's not dusty. He's not old and he's very sexy, isn't he?
you may have gotten 2 out of 3.
So yeah, I know, yeah, it's weird, but then I think it's beautiful that actually, because marketers that do understand the power of broad reach, trust building, emotional radio that's affordable, they're at a massive advantage. If I was a marketer running a brand in the US, there's a real big play here to be done. I think you see a bit of this from P&G. P&G are clocking on to the power of radio and building their brands and spending quite a bit now. There's an opportunity here where you can be first to doing something whilst everyone else is sleeping on the opportunity. Yeah.
Well, one of the things we talk about in our space is broadcast radio, audio, as a force multiplier.
Yeah.
What it does with other things.
Yeah.
You make the case, it stands on its own.
Yeah,
it is so strong, it stands on its own.
Yeah.
In some deployments, it's not always the approach.
Yeah.
That gets back to the force multiplier. But how do you connect all of those dots together?
Yeah, I mean, it's that makes sense. The force multiplier. We've seen similar research in the UK as well, and it speaks to again what I was talking about around how radio and audio in general acts as a very different to the media channels. In it serves different need states. So it makes sense to go alongside campaigns and grow it. But yeah, I think you guys are doing yourselves an injustice. Radio could and should be the lead of some campaigns, but you come against 2 blockers right with that. One is, do many brands actually have good audio distinctive assets? That's probably holding a few people back. And where are the creators making great radio work? So I tried to reproduce my Listen Up research from the UK and do it in US. Tested hundreds and hundreds of radio ads with System1's testing tools, and they just kept coming out as really, really shit. Unfortunately, it's a blocker I keep coming up with clients everywhere. Like, of course, this isn't. Some channels aren't paying back because when you look at it, like the ad isn't very good. But yeah, I feel like the art of great audio creativity is often. It feels like it's getting a bit lost. And often you find when you do a radio campaign, it's given to the junior in the agency, which is why are we doing that? Like, we should be treating it just like any other channel.
So creative is super important.
Of course.
I mean, it's the closest to the consumer.
Of course. I mean, to give you one fact, in that Listen Up research, ads that got below average star ratings, so ads that didn't make people feel something, our System1 testing, didn't change any behavior when we tracked behavior change in market. They didn't change behavior. Whereas ads that got above average saw 9% behavior change in the target audience. So a good radio ad can massively change behavior and habits, which will lead to market share growth. A bad radio ad, a boring, rational, poorly branded radio ad, won't do anything. It's what my research got to. So, yes, please do use more radio, but put good creativity into it.
All right, let's back up and talk about your company. What do you do? Who do you impact? How is it different in Europe than it is in the US?
How is our company different?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So System1, we measure the emotional and branded response to advertising, and use it to predict and understand how the ad will work. And we also then deep dive into it kind of qualitatively, like what memories does the ad build? Why do people feel the way they do? What creative features are recognized? To help marketers understand how their ads are doing, how their competitors' ads are doing, and how they can improve and do them better. And then my job is I do all our thought leadership, and I lead all our partnerships with media owners, and I connect that data into real in-market effects and show how to do creativity better per channel, but also prove that emotion, distinct emotion, executed consistently, is essentially how advertising works. Like, we've proven again and again that the more you feel, the more you buy. It builds more memories. When a brand comes to mind and it feels good, you choose it instantly. That's how advertising works. How is it different in the US and UK? Well, we're a global business. We've got half our businesses in Europe and half of it is in the US. How is it different? I feel like Europe already knows the power of emotion, and in the effectiveness and how effective it is. I was doing a talk here on Monday at the ANA, on Tuesday, sorry. And it was new news to some people. Like, oh, more emotional advertising, does this, and this. And people haven't heard that before. So I think the markets are at different stages because effectiveness has been cool in the UK for quite a while and in Europe, thanks to people like Les Burnett and Peter Field and the IPA and Mark Ritson and people like this. But I actually like it because I think there's a massive job to be done in the US, actually weaning people off performance and rational and targeting and often these lazy digital choices, and showing them that actually when you do emotional broad reach advertising, good things happen. We've got some amazing clients in the US that believe that and are seeing the results. So yeah, that's how I think things are different.
Measurement. How does that play into the consideration from the marketer? Like, we hear a lot of that, certainly from our members and our marketers here in the US. At the end of the day, I want to see exactly what happened.
Yeah. So. I think we all might have measurement wrong. I think in my research with Effie, what we actually found was there's a perfect, a 91% R-squared correlation between the ad spend on Meta and the number of short-term objectives in Effie campaigns. As we've seen Meta's ad spend do this, which is a bellwether for digital media. I'm not dumping on Meta. Short-term objectives have done this, and short-term objectives are wanting a campaign to drive clicks, impressions, engagement, lower CPAs, website traffic, this kind of stuff. People are, if you measure what happens in days and optimize for that, you will optimize away from growing a brand over years. Like, if you're looking at those kind of objectives and you optimize for them, and I've got data proving this with like TikTok, if you optimize for short-term conversion, and you can do that with rational advertising, very targeted, it damages brand lift on TikTok. So, and then that's what scares me about like a lot of these AI tools and planning software at the moment, because it optimizes for the short-term stuff. So you're super screwing yourself at lightning speed.
For the long-term success.
Yeah. And because you're making your job in the future much harder. What ads that do better at conversion do worse at brand building. Because brand building needs to be wasteful, luxurious, emotional, not chase after the people who are interested. So when you optimize away from that to people who are showing intent signals, hammering them with reasons to believe, not bothering with emotion, not any waste, tight targeting, you're screwing yourself on the long-term stuff. So that's where I think we're at with measurement.
Andrew, where does your passion come from?
My passion comes from.
Yeah, where does it come from? Where does it hail from?
Good question. I actually I trained as a doctor for 10 years when I was very young. And then I just didn't want to do that. So I started working at Diageo. And I like a drink. I think the drink is the punctuation of our lives. You know, meet a friend, have a drink. Graduate, have a drink. Wedding, let's cheers. I think it's very interesting culturally. And then I fell into marketing. You know, after wasting a lot of my time referring as a doctor.
What were you going to be a doctor of?
I wanted to be an anesthesiologist.
You wanted to how could you put people to sleep with your energy level?
With a lot of drugs. And then I felt like I was too late to the party. I was like, I felt like a sham. Like I've not trained as a marketer. I've not studied anything. But then I went to uni and in my evenings and did a master's and then read everything on effectiveness I could. And then I realized no one in marketing has any training or has any idea what they're doing. So then I was like, oh shit, I'm actually quite good at this. No one's bothered to do anything I've just done. Which is kind of Matt Ritson's whole point on why he does his mini MBA. And then, I guess I got the bug. I find effectiveness very interesting. And marketing is the marriage between creativity and science and strategy. What an amazing career to be able to sit around and think about these things and change culture.
I've used the same question with our guests during this podcast series, so I'll ask it of you as we wrap up, and that is, take a long view. And a long view for my question for you is 4 years.
Okay.
So in 4 years is 2030. What's this world look like, this marketing world look like in 2030?
Oh God, it's 4 years, 2030. This life's going too quick.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. So what does marketing look like then? I'll give you two options because I can sense a fork in the road for us. Broad reach linear channels don't exist anymore is one option. There's so much profit in digital marketing and digital media. They've got some incredible people dedicated to growing those channels. It's an unstoppable force that will just segment all our media spend into little bits. And I think it'll be almost impossible to grow brands anymore. Because as I said, brand is about brand building is about wasteful stuff. Making people feel stuff. Wasted media, that people that aren't interested in buying you now, but they might do in 5 years' time. And that's what digital can't really do. And I see it in my data as well, like the number of brand building effects, awareness, trust, differentiation, distinctiveness, etc., reported in Effie campaigns is decreasing year on year. We're actually seeing less and less brand building, but more and more money being spent on advertising. So it's happening. We're all going there. And when you actually and we don't know it's happening because you don't look at this stuff over a long enough time period. When you look at the past 10 years, we used to spend 70% of our global media budget on high attention media channels, TV, radio, print, versus out of home, digital displays kind of stuff. It's completely flipped in the past 10 years. We now spend 70% of our global media budget on lower attention media channels. Things have drastically changed. So I think we're going to head more towards that. My other option is I'm secretly hopeful about creators, as in influencers, There's loads of great data coming out where actually they are putting the human into these channels. I mean, and you can think of podcast hosts and as
that's our bread and butter.
Yeah, as influencers, the original influencer.
Absolutely.
Right, a radio host. And I think that might be it's our lifeline, I think, to actually looking at how do you build a brand in a human emotional way. It isn't just shit AI digital slop. So I'm 90% sure my first vision of the future is going to come true, but maybe there's 10% chance that things might get great again, and marketing might become more emotional again and more human. I doubt it, though.
Well, that's uplifting.
I got asked on a podcast the other day, if someone asked you how they get into advertising as a student, what advice would you give them? I'd say, I don't think I'd try and get into this right now. It's changing too much. Like, we need the dust to settle. AI really has changed everything.
One thing I know is I'm proud of the industry that we all represent.
Yeah.
We see wins every day.
Yeah.
We see businesses change every day. We see communities change every day.
Yeah.
That connection, and you mentioned it, the original influencer, it's at the core of what we do every day.
Yeah.
There's still hope, man.
I agree. I'll be more hopeful tomorrow. But this chat has made me more hopeful.
I appreciate that. Man, I tell you what, Andrew, you have an energy about you. Let's try to have a little bit more energy the next time that you come on Main Street and have a podcast. So it means 2 more years. So it'll be 2028 when you'll be invited back.
Yeah, we'll be living in this dystopian future.
Well, we won't be quite there because that's 4 years
No,
from
true.
now. So
yeah.
either you're going to say,
I was wrong.
No, because you said we're going to come to a fork in the road.
Yeah.
And a great American philosopher once said, when you come to a fork in the road, take it.
Yeah. Okay.
Andrew, thanks, man.
Thank you so much.
From proving that audio builds stronger brand memories than visuals to calling out missed opportunities for those brands not using audio, Andrew's message is clear. Great marketing still depends on reach, emotion, and consistency. And radio is one of the few mediums that can deliver on all 3. For brands willing to lead instead of follow, audio isn't an add-on. It's a competitive advantage hiding in plain sight.